in. Hello, everybody. We're just waiting for a few more to pop in from the waiting room. Hi, everyone. Okay, as you are joining us, your microphones and cameras are actually off, and we would appreciate if you guys could keep them off for right now. So if you turned your camera back on, go ahead and turn it off for the beginning of the presentation. We might have some time when we do questions at the end where we'll go ahead and we'll maybe turn them back on to be fun, okay? But for right now, let's keep those cameras off. It's just sort of distracting while the author is speaking. That's why we do that. Okay, I think we're all in now. Yay. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here on a Wednesday night with us at Anderson's Bookshop, or really in my bedroom, on behalf of Anderson's Bookshop, for our virtual event with Nick Bruel. We're so excited. Nick, of course, has been to Anderson's many times before, and we're thrilled to have him back. I don't know how many of you that are in here have maybe already met him through our stores. I know he does come through quite often. I'm Carrie. I am on the Anderson's events team, and it's my job to welcome you tonight and to thank you all for being here. The Anderson's family has been selling books independently, believe it or not, since 1875. So we have been through the ringer before. We've seen some pretty tough times, and we've made it through some tough seasons, and we're going to make it through this one as well. But your support of Anderson's and your continued support of our small business by continuing to come to events like this and purchase the book through us from events like this, it's never been more important to us than it is right now. So we're just very grateful for your continued support of our events program, and we cannot wait until the day that we can see all of you in person again. I know how much we all miss those in-person events. A couple of things about tonight before we get started. As mentioned previously, your cameras and microphones are off for the duration of the event. We might have a chance to turn them back on later, like during Q&A. And speaking of Q&A, I will be collecting questions that we will ask from you guys that I'll ask Nick at the end. And so if you want to be putting those through the chat here on the event during the entire event, anytime one pops into your head, go ahead and put it in there. And then I will be collecting them and choosing a few to ask him at the end. About that, really, events are so much better when the audience asks questions. So please, please, please ask questions. For some reason in the virtual format, everyone seems to be a lot shyer than they are in person, but we love the questions and they really make the event more fun for you guys and for the author, of course. If you ordered the book for tonight, please give us at least 24 hours to pick it up in store, or just give us a call tomorrow and we'll try to have it ready for you. If you ordered a book for tonight to be shipped, we'll try to get to that over the next 2 days. We'll get those shipped out to you. Also, I just wanted to put it on your radar that we recently announced our 19th annual Children's Literature Breakfast, which this year, of course, is going to have to be virtual. But we have an all-star lineup so far of keynoters today. We announced Gary Paulson, who is just a legend, and we have Dan Santat coming, and Kimberly Brubaker Bradley. So that is a great event. You can get information about that over on our website. It's going to be February 27th on a Saturday morning. And that's a great event for parents and educators who love children's literature. So I wanted to put that out there for you. But now we are going to move on to the good part of the evening. With us tonight is Nick Bruel. He is the author and illustrator of the New York Times best-selling Bad Kitty series, of course. Nick is a freelance illustrator and cartoonist as well. And during his downtime, he collects Pez dispensers and he grows tomatoes in his backyard. He lives in Tarrytown, New York with his wife, Karina, and their lovely cat, Esmeralda. And we're thrilled to have him here. Welcome, Nick.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me to be at Anderson's. I love this store, and I think I have to open by saying congratulations to all of you, because you are doing something pretty remarkable right now. Even though you are at home or wherever it may be, you are supporting an independent bookstore. And that is not a small thing. I actually have a long history of working for independent bookstores. I worked for 3 different independent bookstores in New York City, and the very first one is gone. It's not coming back. So don't take for granted the store that you are supporting right now. It's a wonderful one. And thank you for doing that. And on that light note, my name is Nick Bruel, as you've gathered by now, and I have this amazing job where I get to write and illustrate books. So this is what I think we have enough time to do tonight. I think I have enough time to read to you from the newest Bad Kitty chapter book, which is Bad Kitty Goes on Vacation, now in glorious Technicolor. After that, I want to do not one, but two drawing exercises. The first will have nothing to do with Bad Kitty. The second will have everything to do with Bad Kitty. And after that, I want to leave as much time as possible for questions from you guys. So just to review, part 1, shameless self-promotion. Part 2, drawing exercise that has nothing to do with Kitty. Part 3, exercise that has everything to do with Bad Kitty. And then part 4, questions. Before I read to you from this book, Bad Kitty Goes on Vacation, I want to tell you a story. The story it's not about me. It's not even about Kitty. The story I'm going to tell you is about Uncle Murray. See, one of the questions I'm asked the most, and it might even be a question that some of you have right now, is who is Uncle Murray? Where did he come from? Does he exist? Well, to answer that question, I need to go back in time to when I was writing the very first Bad Kitty book. Now, in case you don't know it, the very first Bad Kitty book was a picture book. It was a simple story, only 40 pages about a cat who she does not get the food that she wants one day, and the food is listed in alphabetical order. So she commits all these acts of mayhem in alphabetical order. Then she does get the food she wants in alphabetical order, and she more or less makes amends in alphabetical order. Well, when I was writing the alphabet of foods and animals that Kitty wanted to eat, I could not think of a food or an animal that started with the letter U. I mean, they're unicorns, but they don't really exist. It didn't seem to fit. So I thought about it for a while. I thought, wouldn't it be funny if for letter U, I wrote Uncle somebody? And if I was going to do Uncle anybody at all, it had to be my own real life Uncle Murray. See, when I was a kid, I had a real life Uncle Murray. And I depict him in the books kind of as I remember him. He was sort of big and doughy. He was mostly bald. I would visit him at home. So he was always walking around in his pajama pants and a stained gray t-shirt. And I loved my Uncle Murray. My Uncle Murray used to tell me stories that were possibly inappropriate for my age about his friendship with a famous Hollywood comedy team called Abbott and Costello. Now, a lot of you younger folk, you kids, you might not know who Abbott and Costello are. That's okay. A lot of you grown-ups, your parents, your teachers, they probably do know who Abbott and Costello are. So I'm giving everyone a little assignment. I know you didn't come here for homework, but trust me, it's not going to be bad. When you're able to, try to find a movie. Either maybe it's streaming, maybe you could download it, maybe you could rent it, maybe you can even purchase it. Find a movie called Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. If you like funny movies, you will love this movie. If you like scary movies, you will love this movie. And while you are watching Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, you can point to the screen and you can say, hey, those two guys used to play poker every Thursday night with the real life Uncle Murray. All right, so why did I tell you this story? I told you this story because this book, Bad Kitty Goes on Vacation, is just as much about Murray as it is about Kitty. So in honor of my real Uncle Murray, I thought I would model this book. I would use an actual Abbott and Costello movie as a model to how I would tell this story. And the chapter I'm going to read to you from is very much modeled after the kind of scene or comedy routine you would see in an Abbott and Costello movie. And in order to read to you from it, I am now going to switch to my handy dandy fancy schmancy document camera to read to you from Bad Kitty Goes on Vacation. Chapter 3, At the Airport. And here we see Kitty, we see Murray, he's dragging his luggage, and he says, "We made good time getting to the airport, Cat. In fact, we're early. In fact, I'm starting to feel, what's the word? Happy about this trip. I feel like nothing could possibly go. Hey, you! You can't take your cat into the airport." "Oh, hello, Mr. Airport Security Officer. She's not my cat." "What do you mean she's not your cat?" "That is to say, she doesn't belong to me, but we're traveling together." "If you're traveling with a cat, the cat has to be in a pet carrier." "Don't say that word." "What word?" "Carrier." "I can say what I want. Carrier." "No, please don't." "Carrier, carrier, carrier." Okay, I get the message. Let's go, cat. Try not to kill me while I put you into the you-know-what. 1 hour later. "Well, cat, it wasn't easy, but I got you inside the carrier just like the nice man wanted, and I only blacked out from the pain once. We lost a lot of time, but we should still be able to get to our flight on." "Hey, you! You can't take that carrier onto a plane." "But, Mr. Airport Security Officer, sir, you're the one who told me to put the cat into a carrier." "It's too big. You gotta put the cat into a carrier that'll fit under a plane seat." "Do you have any idea what it took to put this cat into a carrier in the first place? My blood type is very rare. And now you're telling me to take this cat out of this carrier and put her into an even smaller carrier? You better do it if you want to get on that plane." Groan, says Uncle Murray. "Here we go again, cat. I hope it doesn't rain at my funeral. But if it does, I hope someone gives Aunt Esther an umbrella because the cheap dye she uses in her hair turns blue when it gets wet." 45 minutes later. "It's gonna be close, cat. But we've got you in the right carrier. We're on the security line. My vision is starting to come back. And with a little luck, we'll still catch our flight." "Hey, you!" "Of course." "You gotta take that cat out of the carrier." "Are you kidding me?" "You can't put the cat through the luggage scanner. It's not safe for the cat." "Oi," says Uncle Murray. "First you tell me to put the cat into a carrier. Then you tell me to take the cat out of the carrier and put her into another carrier. Now you want me to take the cat out of the carrier again. Let me guess what you'll make me do when I go through security. Put her back into the carrier. Make up your mind. If you don't like it, maybe you should drive. Maybe I will. Maybe you should. Maybe I will. Maybe you should. Maybe I will. Maybe you should. Maybe I will. Me and my big mouth. The end to chapter 3 of Bad Kitty Goes on Vacation. Just a word of warning. If you're planning to read this book out loud, you'll want a nice refreshing glass of water on hand because chapter 3 can be a little rough on the pipes. You'll excuse me a moment. Now is the fun part, because I want to show you a drawing exercise. It's a kind of drawing exercise I do on my own, just to practice. It's one you can do when you have any free time. You can do it by yourself. You can do it as a group. It's a drawing exercise I call Chimera. So now, exactly what is a chimera? A chimera is a mythological beast, a creature from ancient Greek mythology. And it was an amalgam of animals that were sort of
Nick, I accidentally muted you.
Oh,
sorry about that.
That's okay.
All right,
I thought
you are
maybe
now
lost
unmuted.
For a moment, I thought I'd gone hysterically mute and deaf, but that happens. Where was I? Chimera. Now I remember. A chimera was an ancient Greek mythological beast. It was something that was an amalgam of animals sort of smashed together to make one creature. And it was typically depicted as having the head and the body of a lion. But it also had a second head, that of a goat, that it was typically sticking out from behind the lion head. And instead of a lion tail, there was a snake or a serpent. And before I forget, the goat head, the one I was just telling you about, it could breathe fire because apparently that's what goats did in ancient Greece. Anyway, you don't need a lot for this exercise. You need, of course, something to draw with. I'm going to use a marker. And then you need at least 2 sheets of paper. Now, one sheet, of course, is to draw on. The other sheet you're going to cut up into pieces. And onto each of those pieces, you're going to write the name of an animal. I've already done that. So as an example, I have a piece of paper here with the word rhino or rhinoceros on it. I have another piece of paper with chicken on it. The more pieces of paper, the more animals, the better. I like to put them in a bowl, but you can also stack them like a deck of cards. But for me, I kind of like to shuffle around a little bit, and that's what I'm going to do just now. To demonstrate this exercise, I'm going to choose 3 animals, all right? Let's see what we come up with. I'm going to put one right in the middle here, and it is, oh, good one. Giraffe. The giraffe is going to be the head of my chimera. I think we'll make it the neck too. What do you think? All right, let me get this. Let's see what this is maybe at the very bottom. Let's find out. Oh, good one. Octopus. I think we're going to make these the legs, or in this case, tentacles of our chimera. Let's pick one more. What do you think? Let's get something also in the middle here. And rabbit. Interesting. Let's make this the body, and I think also cottontail of our chimera. Here we go. Join me now at my handy dandy fancy schmancy document camera. All right, so to review, I chose 3 animals: giraffe, rabbit, and octopus. These are going to be the 3 animals that make up my chimera. The giraffe will be the head and neck, The rabbit, we'll think we'll make that the body, and the octopus, well, those will be, of course, the tentacles. All right, we'll set those aside for now, and let's start. You know what? We're doing a giraffe, aren't we? So we're going to need to, I think we're going to move this from landscape to profile. There we go. There we go. Now, giraffes, I always tend to start with the eye. Giraffes have these cool shaped heads. I'll make this a happy giraffe. They have, we don't think of it often, but they actually do have these little horns that go with their big ears. Now, of course, what makes a giraffe is their long neck. Here is my favorite giraffe fun fact. The human neck, your neck, my neck, has 7 vertebrae. Can you guess how many vertebrae a giraffe neck has? The answer to that is it also has 7. Only they are gigantic. Some of them, I think probably towards the base, are as big as a toilet. Just huge. All right. So that is the head of my chimera, giraffe. Now let's do the body. And I think for the rabbit, I think I want to make the front paws, because those front paws, they have those cute little front paws that they do sometimes with the rabbit, right? And they're very fluffy. And they have we'll do the other paw on the other side. And they have these great little cottontails. All right. So that'll be the body, the rabbit part of my chimera. Now comes the nightmare, the bottom part. The legs are, in this case, tentacles of this chimera, which of course was octopus. So we have to draw some octopus tentacles. And I think we'll show some suction cups on them because they're great. Now, I gotta confess, I love the octopus. Octopuses are fabulous. They're amazing creatures. If you want to if you ever want to spend an interesting afternoon just falling through a YouTube wormhole, just Google octopus, or I should say, just do a search for octopus on YouTube, and you will not go wrong. They are so intelligent. They are so brilliant. That's 6. We'll pretend the other 2 on the other side. And that is my chimera. My chimera is made up of a giraffe, a rabbit, and an octopus. I just have 2 more things to do here. I have to first name my chimera. All right, so I'm going to name my chimera after the animals that comprise it. All right, so I got a giraffe, a rabbit, and an octopus. My chimera's name is going to be Girabitopus. This is a girabitopus. If anyone ever asks you what a girabitopus looks like, you can draw one for them. I just have one more thing to do now, right? I have to sign my name, because every time you make a drawing or write a story, anytime you do anything creative, you have to put your name on it just to claim it, okay? So I'm gonna write, I have space right here. This is where I'm gonna write my name, which of course is Nick Bruel. Well, hopefully that looked like fun. It occurs to me that there are lots of different ways that you can do this drawing exercise. I did this one by myself, but you can do this as a group. I've done this with my daughter. I've done this with her friends. I've even done this with school groups. What you can do is same pieces of paper, same animals. The first person picks an animal and draws the head of the chimera, then passes the paper down, because the second person is then going to pick an animal, and that will become and then draw the body of the chimera and pass it down, where the third person will pick another animal for the legs, and so on and so forth. Now, I just chose 3 animals. Imagine how amazing your chimera would look if you chose 4 or 5 or more animals. Now, And here's another thought. I've never done this myself, so maybe you can do this. I only wrote down animal names on these pieces of paper, right? It occurs to me that it might be kind of interesting if every now and then you threw into the mix something that was not an animal. So for instance, you can write down a head of broccoli or Batman, or maybe even your mom. Although having said that, I hereby absolve myself of any responsibility if you get into trouble because you made a drawing of a chimera with the face of your mom, the neck of a giraffe, and so on and so forth. Let it be on your head, not mine. I'm absolved. Let's draw Bad Kitty. I'm going to get my paper. I'm going to get the same marker, but I want to make it interesting. I don't want to just show you how I draw Bad Kitty. It'll be fun. It'd be interesting to watch, but I want to make it so that you'll learn something. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am, of course, going to draw Bad Kitty. But while doing that, I want to show you the hardest part. I want to show you the biggest challenge I face each and every single time I have to draw this character. And that is giving her feelings, emotions. See, feelings and emotions are really important in stories. Every single story you've ever read, you're going to read, all of those stories needed feelings and emotions to make the characters seem real. But I've got a problem. It's kind of a big problem. My problem is that I created a character who does not talk. Kitty doesn't talk. She's a cat. But because she doesn't talk, she can't just tell us what she's thinking. She can't just tell us what she's feeling. The only way to know what Kitty is thinking or feeling is by seeing the expressions on her face. That's my challenge. I'm going to show you how I approach that problem each and every single time. And I'm going to do it, of course, with the help of my handy dandy fancy schmancy document camera. So to show you what I'm talking about, I'm first going to draw Kitty herself. Now, when I'm drawing Kitty, I always start in the middle of her face with that part of the body called the elbow. Well, hold on. Sorry, that doesn't sound right. I need to review. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, and eyes and ears and mouth and nose. Nose. That's her nose. I knew that. Sorry. Now below her nose, I'm going to draw her mouth. Now above her nose, I'm going to draw these two circles. And these circles, of course, are going to be her gallbladder. And hold on, sorry, I need to review again. That doesn't sound right. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, knees and toes. Head, shoulders, knees and toes, and eyes and eyes. Those are her eyes. Sorry about that. Above her eyes, I'm going to draw these four hairy deals. My research shows that all cats have 2 ears. So I always give her 2 ears for the sake of scientific authenticity. If you ever run across a cat that has more or less than 2 ears, medical attention might be necessary. Next came these sort of whiskery deals. You'll notice that the middle ones are always a little longer than the others. It kind of balances her head nicely. All right. Skinny neck, shoulders. We'll give her that little tuft of white fur in her chest and we'll stop there because that's Kitty. Hi, Kitty. But I'm not done yet. See, because I call this blank-faced Kitty. She doesn't really have an expression, right? You cannot look at this face and know for sure what she's thinking. You certainly cannot look at this face and know for sure what she's feeling. That is about to change because with a single stroke of this marker, I'm going to turn this blank, expressionless Kitty into annoyed Kitty. This is going to happen quickly, so pay attention. Here we go. No expression, annoyed. In case you missed it the first time. No expression, annoyed. No expression, annoyed. See, the smallest detail can make a huge difference. It's knowing where to put that detail. That's the hard part. To further illustrate this point, literally, I'm going to do this 3 more times. But to save time, I'm not going to draw her whole head with the ears and the hair and the whiskers and neck and all that. I'm just going to draw the important parts of her face. Only this time, I'm going to draw those 2 circles, you know, her eyes. I'm going to make them a little bigger than I did that first time. I'm doing this 3 times. All right. So I have 3 kitty faces here in front of me. They're pretty much the same. They're pretty much identical, but obviously they're also incomplete. Something is still missing. All right. By the time I am finished, this first one is going to be Surprised Kitty. This next one here is going to be Crazy Kitty. And this last one down here is going to be Adorable Kitty. All right, you ready? Here we go. First things first, Surprised Kitty. 1, 2. That was easy, but check this out. This is my favorite part. All I did was add 2 dots. Now look at how much more alive that face becomes compared to the other 2. I never get tired of that. All right. Next, of course, Crazy Kitty. You ready? Here we go. 1, 2. It's not so hard. Last but not least, Adorable Kitty. 1, 2. I had 3 kitty faces. I had 3 kitty faces. They used to be the same. They used to be identical. By the time I was done, the only difference between surprised, crazy, and adorable was where I put the dots for her eyes and how big I made them. Learning these details, the ones that make such a huge difference, took me a lot of time, a lot of practice, remains to this day the hardest part of my job when I have to draw this character. I now open the floors to questions from you guys, which is going to be moderated by our good friend at Anderson's Bookshop.
Hello. Yeah, we have lots of great questions, actually. Thank you, Nick, for that. That was very fun. I also made a girabbitopus, but I'm not going to show you because it's too embarrassing. I do not have your gift for drawing, that's for sure. Okay, let's see. We have some great questions here. And I want to encourage you guys, you can keep putting in questions, okay? So keep typing them into the chat, and I will go ahead and be moderating them, and we're going to try to get through as many of them as we can, okay? So we might not be able to get to all of them, so I'm just letting everybody know, but we're going to get through as many of them as we can before our time together is up. And then, of course, I think we probably want to have a couple minutes where we can turn our cameras on at the end maybe, and you can see everybody's drawings. I'm sure they want to show them to you. So, okay, first of all, we're going to start with a really hard-hitting question, and that is from the Jurup family. And they asked, how many cats do you have?
How many cats do I have? Well, we have 1 cat now. Her name is Rose. And we named her Rose because she looks and smells nothing like a rose. But I will say we used to have 2 cats. One of them was mentioned even. Her name was Esmeralda. And she passed away, as our pets often do. And I got to say, I do miss her. And what I don't miss was the conflict that was going on between these 2 animals. Rose and Esme just did not get along. Sometimes kids don't get along. Sometimes grown-ups don't get along. but it was kind of intense because, to be honest, Esme, I think she wanted to eat Rose. At least all the evidence was there that she wanted to eat Rose. She just did not want this other cat anywhere in the house. Rose, on the other hand, really did want to be friends with Esme. It was kind of interesting. If anything, she was sort of a weird thrill seeker. Rose had this habit, and I've never understood why she did this. She was desperate to go into the little bathroom where we kept Esme's food dish and her water and her litter box. She was desperate to go in there and use that litter box. She had her own. She had her own food. In fact, she didn't even like Esme's food. They ate totally different things. But she was obsessed with using Esme's litter box. It would be like if you were to knock on the doors of Castle Dracula because you wanted to use the restroom, knowing that the place is infested with vampires. That was Rose. I will never understand it. Anyway, she's our only cat now, so she doesn't have that kind of excitement in her life anymore.
Well, we seem to have a lot of Esmeralda fans actually in the chat because they have asked about her. They've asked if she was a bad kitty, and then also if they can see Rose.
Well, no, unfortunately, I would love to show you Rose, but Rose she has the house to herself in New York right now because my family and we are in Southwest Florida, where we're going to hide out for a little bit. Rose has the house to herself up in New York. She loves it. She likes it fine. We have somebody who goes in there 3 times a week to make sure she hasn't run out of food and make sure her litter box is clean. Esme was not a bad kitty per se. She was actually, in some ways, how do I put this? Esme was a cat. She wasn't really good or bad.
Spirited.
Esme, in fact, was probably the most loving and affectionate cat I have ever known. And I have the scars to prove it. Because here's the thing with cats in general. It doesn't matter how sweet they may be. It doesn't matter how loving or affectionate they may be. It doesn't matter how much they may like to rub up against your leg or even sleep peacefully in your lap. They all have this dark side. And it's that dark side that I tapped into to create the personality of Bad Kitty that's allowed me to do so many books about this one character.
Well, we luckily have a lot of people here tonight who appear to have cats. They're telling me in the chat all about their cats. Somebody had 2 kittens, which is pretty exciting, actually.
Oh, yeah.
I think they all understand. I definitely understand too. I have 2 cats and I never understand why they seek out each other's like private domains and push each other's buttons either. Just like my children, actually. So that works. All right, this question, we're going to switch gears a little bit, talk a little bit about your process and your road to becoming an author. The kids had a lot of great questions. This is from Gianna. Where did you learn to draw and how long did it take you to learn? And also, I'm going to combine that. Somebody else asked how old you were when you started drawing.
Oh, all right. Well, the best way to answer the question about drawing is to give you the secret to learning how to draw anything, whatever it may be. It's a simple secret. It's only 3 words. And here it is. The secret to learning how to draw is copy, copy, copy. See, when I was a kid, I really desperately, I wanted to draw Batman comics. I love Batman. I wanted to draw Charlie Brown and Snoopy because I love Peanuts. I also loved Mad Magazine, and I desperately wanted to draw cartoons from Mad Magazine. So this is what I did. I would go get a copy of Batman comics. I would get the newspaper with the funnies and Peanuts and Charlie Brown in it. I would get an issue of Mad Magazine. I'd put them right over here, and then I'd get a blank sheet of paper, something to draw with, and I would copy the drawings I saw next to me. I think it's useful. It might even be necessary to take tracing paper and to trace the drawings you like, whether it be Batman or Spider-Man or Charlie Brown or whatever it may be. It could even be a photograph, because that's how you learn how another artist created what they did, by tracing it. So I mean this sincerely. If you want to draw, you need to copy, copy, copy. Don't worry about it. This is how everyone who draws learns how to draw.
Great advice. All right. So Gianna also wanted to know when you decided to make books. Like, when did you decide you wanted to be an author?
Oh, that's an interesting question. You know, this is one of those questions that if you were to ask 100 different people how they got their first book published, you would get 100 different answers. This is how it worked for me. Ever since I was a kid, and I just talked about this, I wanted to draw comics and cartoons, that sort of thing. So that's kind of what I did. It was my favorite thing to do. I would get a blank sheet of paper, I'd put it in front of me, and then I'd get a pencil, pen, crayon, whatever I get my little hands on, and I would start writing and drawing stories. And I did that all through first grade. I did that all through second grade, third, fourth, fifth grade. I did that all through middle school, high school, college. Something interesting happened while I was in college. When I was in college, I was given the opportunity to have the comic strip. For the first time, after all these years of writing and drawing stories, I actually had the opportunity to actually make my own comic strip for the campus newspaper. And I did, and I loved it. And that's when I decided I was going to devote my life to doing that, to telling stories with words and pictures. Well, it still took a while, because all those years after college, didn't get anything published until I found myself working at a children's bookstore. I worked for bookstores for over 15 years, and I was working in the children's bookstore, which is very much like working in the children's section of Anderson's bookstore shop. And while I was surrounded by all these incredible books, picture books, chapter books, middle grade novels, young adult novels, part of my job was to read as many of these books as I possibly could. And while I was doing that, I kind of learned what made for a good book and what made for a not so good book. That's when I decided that I was going to take those things that I knew as a cartoonist, and I would adapt them to making stories that would be a book for kids. Once I did that, I started creating manuscripts. It happened very quickly. This is where luck played a part. And trust me, luck does play a part for a lot of people's success. The woman who would become my agent was a regular customer at the store. And she heard that I was creating all these book manuscripts and was curious. And so she invited me to lunch, said, "Show me what you got." She was as shocked as I was when she was willing to represent me. The man who would become my first editor, he was a good friend of a former store manager, and he was told about what I was working on. And so he expressed curiosity, and my agent sent them to him. So that's the story. That's the basic story as to how I started getting books published. It's going to be different from probably any other author's story. But then again, every author is going to have their own unique story.
Every author does seem to have their own unique story, and it's always really fun to hear them. So that was a great question. Thanks. This is from Sophia, and I love this question too. What book inspired you to write books? So you had mentioned comics. Were there comics that that inspired you, or?
That's a great question, and you're right. You know what? It wasn't any one book that inspired me. Honestly, it was lots and lots of books, and I don't know if I can actually even filter out a single book that inspired me more than any others, because one of the secrets, if you want to become somebody who writes stories for a living, then you have to read as much as possible. I recognize that I said that at a bookstore event. And I recognize that I said that to an audience who probably hears from all the grown-ups around them, whether they be the moms, the dads, the uncles, the aunts, the grandmas, the grandpas, the teachers, and the librarians who say to them each and every single day, you have to read as much as possible.
So true, though.
Your future depends on it. They say it because it's true.
Mhm.
But I can explain to you why it's true if you want to write stories for a living. You have to think of it this way. Okay, say you read a book. You finish the book. You close the book, you put it down, you set it aside, you say to yourself, wow, I loved that book. That was an amazing book. I'm going to tell everybody to read that book. As an author, as a writer, you ask yourself the very important question, what was it about that book that I loved so much? If you can find that answer, that's going to be really useful when you start writing your own stories. Now, on the other side of the coin, let's say you read a book. You finish the book, you put it down, you set it aside, you say to yourself, oh boy, that was not my favorite book. I did not love that book. I don't think I can tell anybody to read that book. It's okay. It happens. As a writer, you ask yourself the very important question, what was it about that book that did not work for me? If you can find that answer, it's going to be equally useful to you. So the lesson is simple. Don't worry about whether or not you think you're going to love or not love the book that's in your hand. Read it anyway. They will all be equally useful to you in the long run. Great question.
Oh, that was such a good answer, too. I loved it. Great question, great answer. Okay, I'm going to combine two questions here, kind of together. So Kevin asks, how do you come up with the topics of each book and why do you pick those topics? And then Scarlett and a few others in the chat have also asked how you came up with the idea for Bad Kitty specifically.
Okay, well, there's two different questions there. Now, I'll answer the Bad Kitty part first, okay, and then I'll get into the topics because that's no one really asked me that particular question, and it's an interesting one. So this is the story about how I came up with the idea for Bad Kitty. It's not a very exciting story, to be honest. There's no moment of inspiration, but if there's any lesson here, it's that it's not easy for my brain and for most people's brains to get a blank sheet of paper and a pencil, pen, whatever, and just start writing a story, starting with the words, once upon a time, fill in the blank. It's a huge blank, and my brain cannot handle it. So what I like to do is give my brain smaller, simpler, easier, creative exercises to work with. And the one I do most of all is I think of the title first. So before I think of the story, the setting, the plot, anything, I think of the title first. And I'll tell you why this is. If you've ever tried to write a story, writing a story can be very difficult, but writing a title can be very easy because a title can be just one or two words. So this is how it happened. About 18 years ago, I was sitting at my table. I had a big blank sheet of paper in front of me. I had a pen in my hand. And then instead of writing a story, I started writing down titles. Titles I'd never seen before. Titles I didn't think existed. So that's what I did. Just started writing them down as they came to me, title after title after title after title. And after a while, I'd written down some titles that I kind of liked. I'd written down some titles that I kind of didn't like. But then I wrote down one title that I really liked, and that title was Bad Kitty. I loved that title. So I started asking myself questions. All right, if I've got a story with the title Bad Kitty, what does this cat do that's so bad? Well, I came up with so many ideas, and I was writing all of those down. I thought it'd be interesting if I put them into alphabetical order. So I asked the important question next, why? Why does she do all these terrible things? Well, with cats, food and behavior are pretty interlocked. So I thought, okay, I'll do an alphabet of foods that she does not like. And that is how the very first Bad Kitty book took shape. Arguably, that is how this entire Bad Kitty empire was born, purely from my contemplating those two little words, bad and kitty. Now, as for the topics part, that was interesting. How do I come up with all the various topics, especially with all these chapter books? I mean, there's this Happy Birthday, Bad Kitty. There's the vacation one I just read to you. All of these things. Well, I told you that one of the things that I do to write a story is I ask myself questions, right? I ask myself questions like, what did the cat do that's so bad? Why does she do it? One of the most important questions I have to ask myself when I'm about to write a story is, what do kids care about? Right? That's an important question. That's the kind of question everyone who does what I do, we have to ask ourselves, what do kids care about? And I'll give you an example. Kids care about birthdays, right? My own daughter, she just turned 13 just this last month, right? Almost exactly a month ago. The day after she turned 13, next morning, she said, what are we doing when I turn 14? Kids care about their birthdays. Understandable. So that's what inspired Happy Birthday, Bad Kitty. Babysitters. Kids care about what kind of lowlife mom and dad are going to bring into the house to watch them while they are out having fun without them. And that's what inspired Bad Kitty versus Uncle Murray, now retitled Bad Kitty versus the Babysitter. And the next Bad Kitty book, I guess I can announce what the next Bad Kitty book is, because I asked myself about a year ago, what do kids care about? And I know my daughter. And the answer I came up with that day was her phone. My daughter really cares about her phone. Mm-hmm. And so the next Bad Kitty book is going to be Bad Kitty Gets a Phone. That's how I come up with my topics.
Very cool. All right. I am going, you know what? So one really cool thing about this new book about Bad Kitty Goes on Vacation is that it's in full color for the first time, right?
In color, right.
Full color. So we had a question from, I lost the name. I feel bad. Okay, well, I lost the name, but we did have a question saying, here we go, from Amelia asking if are they going to be in color going forward? Are there going to be any more?
Yes, not only are they all the new ones going to be in color. So for instance, Bad Kitty Gets a Phone, which comes out in about 11 months, will be in color. But we're doing something kind of unusual in that we're going back and putting all of the early Bad Kitty chapter books into color as well. Now, the reason why this is important for me, so the first three have already been, re-released in color. Bad Kitty Gets a Bath, Happy Birthday, Bad Kitty, and Bad Kitty versus the Babysitter, formerly Uncle Murray, are now in color. In order to make them in color, I had to re-illustrate all of those books, because the original art for them were all pen and ink and gray washes. And even the most sophisticated Photoshop apps could not take out all the gray washes without compromising the art. So, and just leaving it with the line art. So I'm redrawing all the line art for all the books one at a time. So when Bad Kitty Gets a Phone comes out, then Bad Kitty Meets the Baby and Bad Kitty for President will also be in color for the first time. Next, I have to do the line art again for Bad Kitty School Days and Bad Kitty Drawn to Trouble. It's been like that. So I'm redrawing all of these books that I first drew for the first time as much as 12, 13 years ago. It's been a strange adventure.
That's a lot of work, but very cool. I know we appreciate it. Okay, we're going to switch gears for a second. This is from Veronica. I really like this question. Are you friends with any authors?
Oh, interesting question. It is a really interesting question. I will say that it's hard to say whether or not I'm friends with other authors, and I don't mean that. I mean that in the sense that when as you grow up, you'll recognize that you use the term friend um, much more cautiously than
Mhm.
you do as a kid, and part of it is because I'm not around as many people as well as these other authors as much as you are when you see your friends in school and you see them every single day. If I see another author, it might be once a year, but we do communicate with each other. So I'm happy to say that there are a few authors who I am genuinely, truly friends with, even though I know at this point most of them on a first name basis. The one author I think I'm probably closest to in terms of actual friendship is an absolutely extraordinary man named Jules Pfeiffer. Now, you may not know his name, but chances are you've seen his work because among the many things he's done over his extraordinary career, he's illustrated the Phantom Tollbooth. The Phantom Tollbooth celebrated its 50th anniversary not that long ago. But in addition to that, he's written and illustrated loads of incredible graphic novels and picture books. Probably his standout picture book is called Bark George. It's, I think, one of the finest preschool picture books in existence. Um, he is somebody I can say I'm friends with. Now, interestingly enough, I've come to know lots of authors and illustrators partly because I worked at a children's bookstore for many years. And during that time, I got to know lots of people, more so then than I do now, because now I only, maybe I communicate with them a little bit on Facebook. Maybe I see them once or twice a year at most at festivals, but obviously not right now.
Mm.
But in the industry, I'm the guy who went from one side of the table to the other. So I met everybody over the years. I met Maurice Sendak. I often say my two great regrets in life are that my father never survived to see any of my books published, and that Shel Silverstein never survived to see any of my books published, because he came into the store all the time and he was just an absolutely wonderful,
Oh,
supportive man, and I miss him tremendously. Um, but
amazing.
for the most part, anyone who does picture books or middle grade, I've come to know in some way or another. And I will say with all sincerity, not a pill among them. Everybody I've come to know in this industry has been just terrific. Really, really neat people.
Yes, I have to say the same. Like, it is definitely a perk to get to meet lots of authors in my job as well. And they are, yeah, I can't pick one that isn't amazing, honestly. That kind of leads into my next question. This was from Angie Kelly, and she said she noticed that you said Mo Willems when you signed your Chimera drawing. And she asked if you
Yeah.
ever get mistaken for him sometimes, and have you two ever appeared together? I think you would be very funny and a great collab.
Oh, interesting. We have never appeared together, even though I certainly know him. I will tell you, I mean, I invoked Mo Willems there because it's a name most people recognize in this field. Um, I will tell you an interesting Mo Willems story. This is a true story, and not one you're likely to have heard before. My very first book that was published was called Boing. It's about a baby kangaroo that learning to go boing, and it came out in 2004. And I was still working at that bookstore when that book came out. Um, Mo had just won, I think, his second Caldecott honor for Knuffle Bunny, because he won one for Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus, and then he won it for Knuffle Bunny. So he was on a bit of a tour, even though at the time he lived in Brooklyn. And he came into the store where I worked. It was called Books of Wonder in Manhattan, in New York City, at the very end of his tour, because he lived in Brooklyn at the time. And so he didn't come in for an event. He came in just to sign stock. And as was often the case, I had the task of hauling out all the books for him to sign. You know, you open them up, you stack them, you get and to chat with him a little bit. I'm not sure how he knew, because I certainly didn't tell him that I had a book out. But he did know. And maybe it's because he recognized my name, he remembered me, whatever. So as he was signing these books, he very kindly said to me, Nick, I'm seeing this book going everywhere. I saw it at every single store that I visited, and I had no idea that he'd even made a book, and there it was at just about every store that I'd gone to visit during this tour. And it was such a kind thing to say to me. So that is my Mo Willems story for the day. He's a genuinely good dude.
Awesome. I haven't met him, and that's definitely one that I'd love to. All right, I think we have run out of time for questions, but if you don't mind sticking around for another couple of minutes. Well, first I wanted to end by Sophia shared with us that she has a cat named Kitty. So when she's bad, she can actually call her Bad Kitty. And I just thought that was hilarious. So I wanted to share it. And then we've had a lot of kids asking if it's okay to turn on their cameras and wave to you and show you their pictures. So why don't we go ahead? And that'll be like our last thing here. Go ahead. Everybody can turn on your cameras. And you can wave to us and show us your face, show us your pictures.
And I'll just say one more thing to support the store, that now I have made, oh, look at these amazing pictures. Holy smokes. Wow.
I know, these are so good. Very impressive.
I have that drawing I did of Kitty. I drew hundreds and hundreds of kitties on book plates, many of which have gone to Anderson's.
Yes.
So when you get a book, you'll get a signed book plate with my signature and a drawing of Kitty. But I'm going to say one more thing about that. I did literally hundreds, over 3,000 Kitty drawings. But among the 3,000 Kitty drawings, I did 10 Uncle Murrays.
Oh.
So they're out there in the world. 10 of them.
I know we got the book plates. I was looking at them today, actually, at the store, but I didn't. Oh, now I can't wait to go in and flip through them and see if we got an Uncle Murray. That's very exciting.
Maybe there's one Uncle Murray. Yeah.
Yay. That'll be really exciting. Maybe one of you will get it. That's so exciting if that happens. All right. Well, I'm
impressed with everyone's work. Well done, everyone. I am so very, very impressed. Thank you for sharing those with me. And I can say that I feel absolutely certain that the day will come that we can meet in person, that I can actually go into Anderson's bookstore, and maybe you guys can come and sit in those great chairs, and I'll be able to talk to you in person. That day is going to come. I absolutely guarantee it. Until then, I want everybody to be as well and to be as safe as possible. Okay?
Yes,
I hope
very
to see
important. We also miss having you come to our store for live events, and I know you always draw lots of pictures, and the kids always leave with pictures, and so I think I still have one from when I brought my son before I even worked for Anderson. So we definitely miss live events. We miss having you come into the store. We're so grateful that you were here with us tonight, though, and we are so grateful to all of you who came, and your drawings are amazing. So thank you so much for being a part of the night. And like Nick said, please stay safe out there. We are hopefully almost to a point, well, maybe sort of soon towards a point where we can all be together again if we just keep being careful. So thank you, everybody, and good night.
Good night, everyone. Thank you for everything. Nico, I'll see you on Friday.
Oh, yes, I was going to say, Nico is here, and he knows you, he told me.
Yes, bye, everyone.
Bye,
Wash
everybody.
your hands. Bye.
Yes.